What is going on, everybody? You are back on another edition of Ballin Over Beers. This is the Week 2 betting show. I am Justin Dueppengiesser. I am joined, as always, by my guy, Mr. James Fitch. Before we get James in here, make sure you're smashing the like button. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel. And in the comments, tell us what is your favorite line of the week. Me and James were just talking before we jumped on here. Not too many appealing things going on here, James.
No, this is one of those weeks where you've got to be careful, right? It's the first week where we can kind of overreact, and it's dangerous, right? We were nervous last week about all of the favorites that we liked, and it proved to be a valid concern as we saw. What did the dogs go? 12-4.
Yeah, so I think like a record for week 1. I think they said.
Yeah, and I had brought up a stat to you guys that I had heard where on average the last like 6 or 7 years at least, I think it's at least 6 road dogs cover in week 1, and you know that proved to be true. So this week is a week to be careful.
I will echo that sentiment, and if you see my 5 games from this last week, you will understand why. That was just a beat down. Took it on the chin last week. James, you jumped out to a huge lead in our little betting pool here that we're doing for the show. We'll recap those first. I'll let you know, AK, you couldn't be with us tonight. Had some stuff going on, so I'll start with his. He got 2 games right, so he got 2 points. So the way we're doing this, just as a kind of a recap, is each week we're going to pick 5 games. 4 of those games are going to be 1 point each, and then one of those games is our lock, super lock. That's going to be worth 2 points. So he got the Carolina over the Jets game right, and he got the Philly over Atlanta right for 2 points. Went 2 and 3 on the week. I went and I got 1 point. The only game I got right was the Seahawks minus 2.5 over Indy. So I went 1 and 4 on the week. And Mr. James Fitch, the winner of last year, off to a hot start.
Yeah, hot 3 and 2, just above 500. So I got that Seattle game right. I got the Eagles +3 right. I just had a good feeling about that one. And then my lock of the week, Denver -3 against the Giants. I just had a great feeling about that game. Teddy, all he does is cover games. The Giants are just a mess. In the off season, preseason, we had coaches, players fighting each other. It just was not good, and I don't expect big things from the Giants going forward. So it was nice to get that super lock to get that right.
Yes, you weren't kidding. This week, super hard. Like we said, why don't we just jump right into it? I'll start. I'll give AK's, and then I'll give mine. So AK's first game on there is Denver over Jacksonville. Denver is -6. Obviously, Denver.
It's a mistake.
Oh, first disagreement of the day.
No, I'm staying away from that game for sure. This feels like a trap game to me.
Okay, here's the question though: is Urban Meyer done? What, like, the rumors are already swirling. It's 1 weekend, they get waxed by the Texans, who everybody thinks is probably going to be the worst team in the NFL, and they come out and just destroy Jacksonville.
He's absolutely going to USC. I don't care what he says. He's known to say things and just be a total liar. Like he's going to USC. I do think he finishes the year out. I think a lot of people think he's just going to quit pretty soon. I don't see that happening, but I don't see him lasting more than a year.
Yeah, there's no way he lasts more than this year. There's no way. And I wouldn't be surprised he either quit or got fired during the middle of the year, to be honest. He's just that kind of person. All right, so enough of Urban Meyer. My first game of the week, and I'm going to be bouncing back. I'm going to get hot here. I can just feel it. The Chicago Bears, the Bears, over AK's Bengals, -2.5. I think that the Bengals are coming off of an overtime game where they basically took that game, that overtime, the entire length, an emotional game. And Chicago actually didn't look as bad as I was anticipating them to look against the Rams. Now, they weren't great, but I thought they were okay, to be honest. So I like the Bears in this spot at -2.5. I just think the Bengals coming off an emotional overtime win is a good spot, and you get that 2.5. So
I I'm on the Bengal side on that one. I don't have this in my contest, but if that was at 3, I would be taking Cincy. I like their offense better. I just think it's better than Chicago's. I don't trust Dalton, but getting a short home favorite, this is one of those bet numbers, not teams type of situation. So I can see wanting to take that number inside of a field goal for sure. My first pick is going to be Eagles +3, hosting the 49ers. Obviously, the 49ers are a much better team than the Falcons, but you've got the 49ers, their second East Coast game. I think they're staying at the Greenbrier, which is, I don't know, is that West Virginia?
yeah, West
So
Virginia, the home of
they
Phil
did
Mickelson.
they did this last year too, and then the year before they did something similar, and it's served them well. It's an interesting strategy than having to fly back and forth, but I don't know. I think that's just a tall task to play a second game in a row on the East Coast. I thought the Eagles looked good last week. They've got a great offensive line. They've got a great defensive line. Hurts looked great. I still don't know why they're starting Garoppolo at quarterback, so I'm just kind of betting against him, and I'll take the 3 points.
When do you think Fields and Lance get in? Because I mean, it's got to be sooner than later, right?
I think Fields probably gets in sooner than Lance. Lance had that injury to his finger that kind of set him back. Although it's interesting, both teams are playing both quarterbacks, right? I think kind of both
Yeah,
teams are like ramping them up. So both are definitely going to be starting by the end of the year. If I put money on which one would be first, I'd bet Fields, but I don't know when that's going to happen.
I agree. I agree. All right, let's move on. Let's go to the next game. AK's next game. The Pittsburgh Steelers coming off of a big win against the Buffalo Bills on the road in week one. They are -5.5 against the Las Vegas Raiders. That's a super interesting game. Raiders coming off of another kind of crazy overtime win. It's kind of like another spot game, kind of similar to what Cincy's dealing with. So I don't mind that, and I think Pittsburgh's obviously just a better team than the Raiders are. I'm pretty shocked, to be honest, that the Raiders were able to pull off the win against the Ravens. I had the Ravens as my super lock. I thought that they would be in fine even with their injuries. Obviously, they could not overcome that. So my next game is going to be the Carolina Panthers +3.5 over the New Orleans Saints. I think that the Panthers obviously had a pretty easy matchup in the first week going against the Jets. The Saints, I mean, they just completely blitzkrieged the Packers. I don't think that the I don't think that the Packers are that bad, and I don't think the Saints are that good, right? Like you see this sometimes with games that are just kind of wacky like that. James Winston only attempted 20 passes but threw 5 touchdowns. That's like some high school, high school stats or something crazy like that. So I like the Panthers in this game at +3.5.
Yep, that's my second pick. I got another toy talking to me over here. Sorry about that.
Dude,
That's my second pick
you're
as
haunted.
well.
You're haunted. You're gonna want to get out of the house.
I literally don't know what's going on. Um, I've got the Panthers +3.5 as well. I just think it's a good number. Home dog. I don't think New Orleans really had to do anything last week to earn that game. I think Green Bay just kind of gave that one away. They looked very rusty. We saw Marshawn Lattimore, I think, leave the game, and he's going to be out for a little while. So that's, I think, big to the Panthers offense. I just like again, bet numbers, not teams. I like the 3.5 here.
I like it. Next game for AK, he is taking the Tennessee Titans at +5.5 over the Seattle Seahawks. Interesting here. The Titans look like absolute garbage against the Cardinals in week one. Seattle looks really good against the Colts. I actually wish he was on so I could hear what his thought process kind of was behind this game. James, I think this is on your card, but you're the opposite way, right?
Yeah, we got a little crossfire here. I just think this is a great spot for Seattle. Tennessee just looked bad, and I don't really know how they're going to look much better. It'd be interesting to see if they get back to more of that play action style that they did with what's his face, Arthur Smith.
Arthur Smith, yeah.
Um, I think it's a mistake to kind of get away from that, but I also think there's some stubbornness to coaches, and I fear that this may be a situation where they unfortunately get away from that and the style of play that has benefited from them. I just like Seattle at home. I think it's a great spot for them. The Titans just lost their starting safety, so in an already weak secondary, I think they're going to be in trouble against a high performing Seattle receiver core and Russell Wilson. Seattle's obviously a tough place to play. This is going to be their first home game with fans in a while. I think that place is going to be just a tough environment. So anything under 6 points, I really like.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I agree. I thought it was bizarre that they came out and they did play action at such a low rate. I think I saw that they did it at like 11%, and then usually last year they were upwards of 36%, which is just a drastic change. And obviously, it did not help them at all in the first week. So interesting there. My next game is the Rams over the Colts. Rams minus 3.5. I just think I think the Rams are a good football team. I think the Colts are struggling. I think Wentz is struggling. That offensive line didn't look great for Indy in the first week. The Rams obviously have Aaron Donald. They have Jalen Ramsey, who looked really good. Both of them did in the first week against Chicago. I don't think McVay's tuning it up with Stafford. I think he's going to try to continue to unleash him and pump him up and give him opportunities to shine. So I really like the Rams in this spot here at minus 3.5 against the Colts. Next game on AK's is he's actually on the opposite side of that Chicago Cincy game. He's being a total homer and betting his Cincinnati Bengals at plus 2.5. So that is, we might have to talk to AK after this one, James, and get some action on him since we're both on opposite sides of games of his.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go. I like the Bengals, but I don't like 2.5. It's just I don't feel like you're getting enough there. I'd like to see that at 3, and maybe for the sake of the contest, I know it's a moot point, but from a betting standpoint, if I'm going to put money down, I'm going to wait and see if that gets to 3.
Yeah, absolutely. And then what's your next game?
So my third pick was the Seattle game we just talked about. My fourth pick is going to be, I'm going to go with the Chiefs minus 3.5 against Baltimore. That's a Sunday night game. It's going to be Baltimore's first home game of the season, which will be tough. But when you think about it, Baltimore played a gut wrenching overtime game on Monday night on the West Coast. They've got to fly back after that short week, 6 days to prepare. So one less day for them. But I think they're gonna be able to run all over Kansas City. I think we saw Kansas City struggle with the run last week, but I just don't think it's gonna be enough for them. I think Kansas City, I think we saw a Raiders offense that looked horrible in the first half, tear them up in the second half. I think injuries just got the best of Baltimore, and I just don't see how Kansas City won't be able to just light it up and just move the ball all over the place. I think Baltimore is going to want to try to slow the game down a little bit, but they might be able to keep this one close, but I can see the Chiefs winning by at least 4. We all locked in bets Kansas City minus 2.5. So the jump from 2.5 to 3.5 is big from a betting standpoint, but for the sake of this contest, I just think this is a game that Kansas City should win by at least 4 points.
Yeah, I think that the Chiefs get after him pretty good here. Just the Ravens are so banged up right now, right? They lost another offensive lineman to a knee injury along the interior, Tyree Phillips. So like it just added to the already laundry list of injuries that they already have. And in addition to that, the Chiefs get back Frank Clark and Tyrann Mathieu, who they were missing against the Browns. So I think this is a good call. They're in a great spot right now.
Can I ask you why you don't have this in your 5-pack?
I was just looking at that, and I don't know why I don't, to be honest. I'm just looking at that now, and I was like, I didn't put that in there, even though we bet it at the beginning of the week.
Well, it's tough. I mean, I know people probably don't always want to hear this, but we bet it at 2.5. You can't get that anymore, and you won't be able to get that. But 2.5 to 3.5 is a huge jump.
It's a huge jump.
I have a hard time laying money on games that are I have an easier time laying at -4 than I do at -3.5. If I'm betting -4 and they win by 3, that's way better than if I bet at -3.5 and they win by 3. Like
Yeah.
I've been burned by that so many times. So to actually put money on -3.5, I just have I hate that hook. I'd rather I'd pay more juice to get it at -3.
Yeah, buddy. I'm right there with you. I hear you. AK's super lock. He is taking the Arizona Cardinals -3.5 over the Minnesota Vikings. Cardinals looked awesome last week against the Titans. We've already talked about that. Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Kirk, all kind of had great games. They looked fast. They look, Chandler Jones had 5 sacks on defense, which is insane. Minnesota's offensive line struggled last week against the Bengals, who obviously are not as talented as the Cardinals up front. So I do think this is a pretty good look here for the Cardinals -3.5 over Minnesota.
They just make me nervous. They make me nervous. Remember when we were on them so many times last year, and they
It's the Cardinals podcast again.
Yeah. It's turning into a Cardinals podcast all over again.
Absolutely, that is difficult though. I'm still waiting for Cliff Kingsbury to just be like better in the red zone than he is.
Yeah, he started figuring it out last week, so we'll see if that sustains.
I hope so because I had very high hopes for him coming out of college. So hopefully they figured it out. My lock of the week is the evil empire, Mr. Belichick, taking on a rookie quarterback, -6. Obviously, it's a lot of points, but I'm willing to just say to heck with that and just take Belichick over the Jets. The Jets aren't great. They just lost Mekhi Becton. They're starting offensive tackle. The front seven of the Patriots is going to get after Zach Wilson. And we've just seen it too many times. It's just, tale as old as time with Belichick against a rookie quarterback in a weak offensive line. He's going to pressure him. There's going to be turnovers. I just think the Jets are going to be able to do the Patriots are going to be able to do what they want to do on offense and play that power run game, and then, find Jacoby Myers in the slot for some easy passes for Mac Jones and call it a day.
Is this the survivor game of the week? Is this the game that you feel most people are going to lean to?
I would say so. Either that or even maybe the Browns over the Texans. Right? Browns coming off of a loss, but they looked really good against the Chiefs.
Yeah, it's actually not a bad play there because the Browns are not a team that I'm going to want to keep around for later in the year. So
right, exactly. Who you got for your lock?
It pains me to do this, but the blue collar boys over in Pittsburgh, I'm going to go with the Steelers -5.5. This is a bad spot for the Raiders. They just basically won their Super Bowl, Monday night home opener for that stadium. The fans were rocking. Won a game they had no business winning. Baltimore definitely gave them that one. So they went out and partied hard. That. They've got to fly to the East Coast, play an early game, so a short week again.
Yep.
I just think this defense, we saw the Steelers just basically eat the Bills' lunch. They owned that front. I think the Raiders are going to have a tough time with them. I just don't see how I think the Steelers, this is a game where I may look at alternative lines like, 9.5 and maybe beyond that. I just think the Steelers are going to crush them. I don't think it's going to be close.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good call. I do like that game as well quite a bit. So
you didn't talk about it, but I think you have this in too as your 5th pick.
Oh, I didn't talk about it. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I do. Yeah. Sorry about that, people. Yeah, I do have that as my 5th pick, and for all the same reasons, right? Raiders, like you mentioned, huge win, stadium opener. That just over time takes all the gas out of you. Pittsburgh, much more difficult defense than the Ravens showed last night with all their injuries, no Marcus Peters, et cetera, et cetera. I think that they'll be able to get after him pretty good. And the Raiders defense still isn't great, right? They still gave up quite a decent amount of points to the Ravens, who are banged up beyond belief. No Dobbins, no Gus Edwards. All the receivers are kind of banged up. No Rashad Bateman. They lost their guard. So yeah, I'm all over that Steelers game as well. To recap,
I like it.
AK, Denver -6 over the Jags. Pitt -5.5 over Vegas. Bengals +2.5 over Chicago. And then Arizona -3.5 over Minnesota is his lock. For me, Chicago -2.5 over Cincy. Carolina +3.5 over New Orleans. Rams -3.5 over the Colts. Pitt -5.5 over the Raiders. And then the Bill Belichick's over Mr. Zach Wilson at -6.
Yeah, and to recap mine, I'm going to go with the Eagles +3 hosting the Niners, the Panthers +3.5 hosting the Saints. I'm going to go with Chiefs -3.5 at Baltimore, Seattle -5.5 hosting the Titans, and the Steelers -5.5 hosting the Raiders. That's going to be a blowout. Lock it.
Lock it up. All right, man. Any closing thoughts on week 2? Anything that you're looking forward to? Want to see? Do the Bills bounce back?
Yeah, I don't love the Bills have owned the Dolphins the last couple of years. I feel like the Dolphins have gotten better. I feel like they've closed the gap a little bit. Like the game last week, I thought Buffalo would win. I thought it'd be a close one. Obviously, Pittsburgh played obviously well because they won the game. I could see Miami giving them a game too, but I like the Bills offense to bounce back. Bills defense looked fine last week. Special teams blew it for them. So I don't have any concerns on that side of the ball right now. I want to see it more from the offense this week.
Nice. We will soon find out, my friend.
I'm looking forward to the Chiefs Sunday night game against Baltimore. I think that'll be a good game. Again, I think we both think that Kansas City takes that one down. Do you think that'll be a close game, or do you feel like that's a 10+ point game?
I think it's 10+. But I thought that with the Browns game. So so we'll see. I really wonder how mentally the Ravens are hanging into it with all these injuries. I mean, that wears on you after a while. Like you do all that,
Yeah.
The other thing is the Chiefs have dominated the Ravens. They're 3-0 against them since it's been Mahomes versus Lamar. So
overall, just league wide, I think we saw a lot of rust week 1. It hurt the Bills holding penalties. It hurt the Vikings. A lot of penalties. Cardinals had a million penalties in the red zone. And they still killed Tennessee. So imagine what it could have been if they hadn't. But
yeah.
I'd like to see if teams kind of clean it up this week, less holding penalties, less rust. I'm kind of banking on the Bills benefiting from another week. But it'll be interesting to see from that perspective.
Well, we kind of talked about this and touched on this before too. Is just the fact that so many teams were resting all their guys like every preseason game and not playing, and like I think some of that showed, right? There one less preseason game, people not playing in preseason. You kind of saw some of that rust, some of the penalties, some of those mistakes that you generally see in preseason games. Teams were definitely not in midseason form, which obviously we're at the beginning of the season, but you definitely didn't see the crispness that you'd like to in week 1 from some teams. So
yeah, agreed.
We'll see. All right,
excited for another week of football.
Me too. It's the highlight of my week every week. Getting to we're Thursday when the show comes out, maybe before Thursday. Even having to watch Tyler Henneke face off with Daniel Jones gets me fired up.
What a game that's gonna be.
Could be one of Joe Judge's last, so he better cherish it. We'll see.
It's one of those games where if I'm doing a DK showdown, I'm playing the Washington defense and a kicker.
Yeah, no, legitimately. Like I was talking to one of my buddies with it today, and we were talking about it. I'm like, dude, I don't know. I almost kind of want to play Washington in the captain, their defense in the captain spot, because Daniel Jones is going to turn it over. Their offensive line stinks. Like
it's that or it's Gibson, right? Maybe McLaurin.
Yeah. But the Giants secondary isn't awful. It's probably the best unit that they have on their team. So
yeah, there's not really anybody in the Giants side of the ball that I'm crazy to play. But
that's the other thing. Like, who do you like? Are you dying to play Saquon Barkley? Like, I'm not. Maybe
Sterling Shepard.
Yeah, I was gonna say we came off of a pretty nice week, but
Yeah.
all right, man, go get an exorcist to get those toys figured out that are talking to you.
It's nonstop. I'm gonna have to shut the thing off.
Yeah. All right, man. All right. Make sure you're dropping what's your favorite line in the comments, guys. We appreciate everybody being here. You can find us on Twitter at jdiz1617. He is James Fitch. You can find him on Twitter at Fitchy24, or you can find us at Ballin Over. Be on the lookout for our DFS show and for my article coming out talking about my favorite DFS plays. We appreciate everybody being here. Good luck in week 2. Let's win some monies.